Good afternoon. Tony Dottino, founder of the USA Memory Championship. Happy to recap some work I've done over the last week on these broadcasts on emotional wellness. And I want to tie the emotional wellness elements into the key factors for mental health. I mean, the whole purpose of me sharing this with you is I saw such a strong connection of the elements coming from the National Institute of Health on your emotions and the things they're teaching you here and how they relate to the six key factors on cognitive fitness, which is the online course that we have on our USA Memory Championship website. So the first one that I want to grab is the lesson on stress. I talked to you about reducing stress, and that ties into your exercising, your social network, your compassion for others, scheduling time for yourself. Well, here's what's interesting about that. When you look at the elements they talk about for stress, getting your sleep, doing your exercises, those are two of the factors for long-term mental fitness. Now you say, what goes on with exercise? Well, exercise brings oxygen into the brain, into your body, and 20 to 30% of the oxygen you bring into your body is being consumed by your brain, which chews up about 20% of the oxygen cells that you've got into your body. And that's like the high-test fuel that you're putting into your brain to generate the healthy, positive actions that your thinking, creativity, comprehension are all a part of. And so more and more research has come out about the importance of physical exercise in three flavors. Physical exercise as it relates to aerobic, physical exercise as it relates to building some muscle, and physical exercise as it brings to flexibility, knees, ankles, shoulder joints, elbows, wrists. So flexibility. So it's interesting that here in the brochure, they talk about the importance of exercise, which also helps you to reduce stress. So there's your tie-in to mental fitness. They talk about sleep as one of the things. Are you getting 7 hours of sleep and realize that school-age kids might get to 9 to 12, teens 8 to 10? My goodness, I see these kids get on the school bus here in my neighborhood at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. I am sure they're not going to bed at 7 or 8 at night and getting their 12 hours, so that much is for sure. So are you getting enough of sleep? Are people stepping back and realizing that there's a certain time to get to bed every night and a certain time to wake up, which is one of the things that was really important here, which is your wake-up time needs to be more consistent than you go to bedtime. And sleep, in the science world, is helping to clear toxins out of the brain. So we want to get down to that deep hours, the 3 hours of that sleep, where it's basically purifying and cleaning out your brain so that you're able to have as pure a brain as you can that's not being impacted with any signs of dementia, Alzheimer's or such. But the third thing they talked about, stress. Again, all of these, it's amazing, the elements of stress, how they tie into the elements of cognitive fitness. Building a social network. They're finding more and more people when they feel isolated or they feel alone, they lose purpose in life. They feel like, gee, nobody cares about me, I don't care about me, and what's the point of going on and doing anything that's good for me? And so building a social network is really important in terms of knowing that when sometimes life throws you a curveball, sometimes a knuckleball, you've got a way of talking to other people that make you feel a little bit better and where you can confide in them. And then recently there was an interesting article I read where if you're a female talking to a female, nobody's looking for solutions. They're just looking to vent and air and share. If you're a male, a female talking to a male, men want to give you solutions. They hear what you're saying, as I do very often. I hear people, I want to fix it right away. I want you to feel better. So whether you're a male or a female talking to me, I want to help you fix it. And so I tend to be what they call a fixer. I tend to say life doesn't have to be problematic all the time. There are ways to get around these things and a way to bring yourself into a state of cognitive wellness. How about showing compassion for yourself? This is another thing on reducing stress, showing compassion. So now how do you get well with all this? So there's your stress element. So how do you give yourself a break and take a positive gig, right? Gig being garbage into your brain, garbage thinking in your brain, garbage grows. So can you start finding some things that are positive in your life, some things that bring, hey, I've got this one branch I can grab onto, and I'm going to let that grow, and I'm going to focus my thinking on good and let good grow and take me to new places. And I said to somebody this morning, it only takes one new thought into a brain that is synergistic, meaning it builds within itself. Only one new thought I want you to get, and I want you to see where that goes. There's an interesting conversation with that, because as I was doing some things, I'm saying to somebody, it just takes one little tweak, one little thing a different way, sends your brain off to a different pathway, and that pathway has the potential of going to an infinite number of new places. And people have a hard time comprehending that, and yet it's so simple that if we get you to just start to think in one little different way, what a difference it can make. Now, we talked about stress in here, we talked about resilience. The resilience is going to go with some of the same things. Do you have healthy eating habits? So now in one of our modules on the 6 factors of brain health, we talk about nutrition. And what about nutrition? Well, what are the foods that you're eating and how do they impact your body? And we talk about cardio systems and the connections between cardio and mental and how strong those are. So what are your nutritional habits? In our 6 key factors for brain health, we talk about the different kinds of food groups and what food groups are best for your mental fitness and your mental health. What else do we do to build resilience? Well, I've just finished talking about gratitude, taking the time to step back and think of the positive things that are going on, and it's not always easy to do that. In the resilience, they also talk about social connection. So the combination of stress, resilience, and social all help with mental health. Let me go to the next one here. Getting quality sleep. I already talked about that a little bit. But in the sleep that they had in the booklet here, they talked about sleeping in a dark, quiet environment. Limit the use of electronics for bed. I mean, again, how many people I talk to are either looking at their phones, now, that has lights on and brings light onto your bed. It has different and beeps, right? Some people silence it off at night. But electronics should not be in the bedroom. I don't even watch TV very much in the bedroom. I do watch it occasionally to watch the end of a sporting event or so, which is not always a good thing to do. But limiting the electronics in the bedroom. And then certainly trying to avoid alcohol and large meals before bedtime. Your digestive systems don't work as well. And then obviously trying to take a little bit of your time before bedtime, maybe not television, it's just maybe sitting down to yourself and being mindful of what you're doing. Maybe it's a short walk. 5 more, you know what, sometimes 10 o'clock at night, I'll just go out. I'm in a safe neighborhood. I'm on a dead-end street. I feel very safe in where I live. If you're not in that boat, then this is not a good suggestion. But the fact of the matter is taking a short little walk, and even in your house, I'm reading more about steps and how beneficial steps are. I used to think living in a house with steps as I got older was not a good thing. I'm reading more and more about the positive nature of steps in a house. Here we also talked about strengthening social connections. So we're going to build relationships with kids first. And you have kids, and they talk to you. Can you sit down and have a conversation? As I talk to more and more kids, what they're asking for is time with their parents. And it's like, well, parents think it's got to get the kids, whatever they want. And yet the kids are saying, give me time. Let me talk to you. Can I talk to you? Can the kids be transparent in talking to you? Join a group that's in a hobby. God, it's amazing in terms of memory. So we have teams of people on memory, how to improve your memory skills. And we get them to sit down in groups of 4 or 5. And it's amazing when you take them through. So how do you remember numbers? How do you remember names and faces? How do you remember comprehension of things that you're reading? And that ties into even a book club. And it's amazing what the mental athletes, when they sit down and work as teams, what they can do. When I did work in high school, I had the kids work in teams of 4, and I put 2 strong kids and 2 weak kids together on a team. It's amazing the progress all 4 of them made. All 4 of them made. The kids that were good learned how to teach it, but in the course of teaching it, they taught themselves how to get better at the actual exercises of retaining information. The kids that were weak obviously learned skills that nobody had ever taught them before, and they just naturally got better in that process. So these are all of the things that go from emotional wellness that tie into cognitive fitness. And if any of you want to get a little more details on it, go look at the 6 key factors from brain health in our USA Memory Championship website. And you'll be amazed at how we take a deeper dive into each of these elements and how the emotional wellness of the mental side of things ties into your cognitive fitness. And it is hard to believe it's another Friday and it's time to start thinking about the weekend. We had a Super Bowl last weekend. Now it's time for college basketball to start bringing up its final 6 weeks of the season and getting ready for the NCAA tournaments. And I see in my paper today that we're talking spring training, and so baseball is just around the corner. So with that, have a good weekend. If you're out in the South, you're probably starting with Little League baseball and softball and soccer. If you're up north, you're trying to avoid another storm and stay safe in your driving. And so with all of this, we'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, and remember, Monday is the President's holiday.